Hi, welcome to the Online Jewelry Academy. I'm Professor John R. and I'm your instructor. Today I'm going to talk to you about polishing. Polishing is the final step in finishing that a piece of jewelry receives before it's sold on to the client. In this video, I'm going to show you how to polish using a mechanized means or my flex shaft. You probably have one of these in your studio too. Otherwise, you may have a larger polishing motor. The flex shaft, though, is great for those little tiny hard to get into places. Now in this video I'm going to put a final polish to a ring that I made in a previous video. In that video I showed you how to solder together the ring, apply the bezel cup, put a rough polish to it, and set the stone. Now we use brushes, either coarse or soft ones like this, to polish around the settings. This is so that we don't erode too much away from a setting. To get to the hard to get areas, we may use these types of felt buffs. They maintain their shape really well and they can get into those small nooks and crannies that are hard to reach otherwise. You can buy them either on a mandrel that they're glued to, or you can buy them loose and you can apply them to the mandrel yourself. Ultimately, you're going to end up using a buff. And here I have a muslin buff and a chamois buff. Now these are for that final polish that makes everything bright and shiny. To do this, we use different types of polishing compounds. Essentially what polishing compounds are dirty grease. The dirt that's in the grease is made up of different particulate matter of different grits. So the coarsest one has the coarsest grit to it, just like in sandpaper. So to start with, you might want to start with either bobbing or Tripoli compound. This is the most aggressive of the compounds. Next, you would move to something that has more of a medium type of grit. In this case, I have something that's called Zam, and it's a polish that's normally used with silver jewelry. You could use yellow rouge or some other medium grit in order to get that medium finish and polish onto your piece. Finally, I'm going to use red rouge. And what this is, it's actually rust in grease. It's iron oxide. That's why it has that red color. It's virtually inert. It doesn't do anything other than just bring up that really high finish. Now to maintain this polish, or if you want to give it that last little spiffy shine, you might want to use a polishing cloth. Now this one is called a Rouge Cloth because it has an interior cloth that is impregnated with the red rouge. So literally what you do is you red rouge your piece again manually and then wipe it off on the exterior of the polishing rag. This one is a chemically impregnated cloth. Normally they come in either blue or yellow. Now these just wipe away tarnish, but they don't actually polish. And in fact, what you may find is that if you try to polish with this, you're just shining up scratches. So you actually have to use the polishing compounds to get the shine. Now the most important part of all of this is your safety. Now because these polishing compounds have grit in them, you really don't want to respirate them. If you respirate any of this grit, it gets trapped in your lungs, and the silica that composes that grit just cuts your lungs for the rest of your life and can send you to the hospital. So protect yourself. You want to wear a dust mask, preferably a clean one, and you definitely want to wear eye protection whenever you're using mechanized equipment. Now, because the polishing items on the flex shaft move at a high rate of speed, and because you're polishing metal items, the friction from the polishing motor will build up heat on the metal piece, and you potentially could burn your fingers. So what I like to use are leather finger cots. That way I can hold on to a piece a little bit longer than I would with my bare hands, and I can get a more effective shine sometimes. Now just remember, if ever a piece gets too hot to hold, put it down. Just give it a few minutes, come back to it, and work on it some more. The only thing that you might use to cool down a piece would maybe be a wet paper towel. And that's because the wet paper towel would at least break away and not get trapped in your polishing motor or not fly into your face. Okay, let me put this away and I'll show you how to use the polishing motor. Okay, I'm suited up and I'm ready to polish. I've got my apron on and I've got my dust mask on. Now when you put your dust mask on, be sure that you collapse this little metal part at the bridge of your nose to keep particulate matter from coming down inside. Now, your glasses might steam up a little bit, but it's worth wearing them. You want to protect your eyes. Okay, now I've given this ring a rough polish, so I've already gone through the initial steps of hitting it with the Triple E and the Zam. So what I really need to do is just give it its final polish with the red rouge. Now you notice I've got a very red looking buff on the end of the flex shaft. That's because I always use this buff only with the red rouge. You need to keep your tools segregated so that you don't cross-contaminate, otherwise you're never going to get a high polish. Okay, let me start the process. First what I'm going to do is just put just a tiny amount of the compound onto the buffing wheel. Okay, you don't want to put too much because otherwise you're just going to have a greasy mess. Now I'm ready to give it a polish. Now when I do this, what I want to do is I want to sweep across the surface and lighten my touch as I go and sort of move in every direction to just feather out any lines that might be starting to develop. All right, let's give it a go. You can see it's starting to get nice and shiny on that surface. Hang on tight because the motor moves fast. The muslin buff is flexible enough that it should be able to get into all the tight areas and provide them with a high polish as well. Okay, we've finished polishing. Now, let me remove my safety equipment so you can hear me a little better. Okay, and you can see I've left my finger cots on because the ring is still kind of hot. Now, when you finish polishing a piece, what you want to do is remove the polishing compound. The worst thing that you could do is give a polished piece to a client and have them get grease all over their finger or around their neck. The way that you do this is by either putting the piece into an ultrasonic with ultrasonic solution, or you could put it into a jewelry cleaning solution. If you don't have either of those around, a little bit of dish detergent and maybe a little bit of sudsy ammonia with a soft toothbrush to just work away the grease compound will clean it completely. So you'll have a nice, shiny product to offer. I hope you enjoyed this video. Check out our other videos and products on the onlinejewelryacademy.com. Thanks for watching.